Will I hang on tight or will I give? Well, it's up to me. Oh, it's up to me. Don't you know that it's all up to me? Now this part of the song I'm gonna ask a question. And every time I do, the answer is no. And that's your part. Are you ready? Here we go. Is it up to my mother, my father, my sister, my brother, my doctor, my lawyer, my teacher, my preacher? It's up to me. You know it's up to me. Don't you know that it's all up to me? Well, it's up to me. It's up to me. It's all up to me. Oh, it's up to you and me.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unity Temple in the Plaza, a place where diversity is praised and peace and harmony are the rewards. I welcome you here. It's fun to see the seats starting to get filled up. I see the Snowdens moved to the northeast side. Was it something I said? In the Russells, I can barely see you back. Anyway, I am glad you're here. We have a wonderful service for you this morning. For those of you who don't know, Kelly Hunt drives in from Florence. And she is the musician and the speaker on the second Sunday of every month. We tried this out last month, and she did phenomenal, and so we're glad to have her back today. Thank you, Kelly. If some of you would like to continue your inspirational experience here at Unity Temple, we do have meditation at 12:10 in the Myrtle Fillmore Chapel. It's a wonderful time to just kind of relax and have about 20 minutes of silence with a 5-minute lead in and a 5-minute lead out. So I'll see you there if you choose to attend. When I'll begin the service with the temple chimes, the opening prayer, and Kelly is going to do the call for inspiration. Please say this with me if you choose. On this day, we dedicate ourselves to peace on earth. We accept ourselves without harsh judgment and express appreciation for our individuality. We live without fear to meet the events of this day with confidence. We accept others without prejudice to experience a sense of unity with all people. We honor our earthly environment and recognize a oneness with all creation. In harmony with ourselves, our lives, other people, and all of nature, we live this day with a peaceful mind, a peaceful heart, and a peaceful spirit. Thank you, God. Amen.
You may say I'm a dreamer, oh, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you will join us and the world will be as one. It was early in April, so many years ago. I was walking with my father one day. I had tears in my eyes and said, I don't understand why you're burning our fields this way. And he held my hand and looked down with a smile. And these are the words that he said. Sometimes in spring, even though it looks so green, these old fields need room, you see, for new life to grow. And things are not always what they seem. 10 years later, it was so hard when he left. It left me burned and charred, just like an old smoldering field. I could barely imagine how I'd even go on with my broken heart left to heal. But on a gentle warm breeze that started to blow, I felt a whispering softly in my ear. Sometimes spring, even though it looks so green, these old fields need room, you see, for new life to grow. And things are not always what they seem. It's early in April, and my little boy is walking beside me today. He's got tears in his eyes and says, I don't understand why you're burning our fields this way. And it's then I realize love never dies. And just like my father, I say, sometimes in spring, even though it looks so green, and things are not always what they seem to be. Well, good morning, everybody. It is a joy and a pleasure to be here once again. Thank you for inviting me back. Today's talk is called Surviving and Thriving in 2021. We're all walking through a year that not only we didn't expect, but we've never experienced before. And what can we do to not only survive, but thrive? And how can we help others do the same? I live just south of Lawrence, Kansas. And one day, I was doing dishes. I was looking out the window in my kitchen, and there's about 1.5 acres of land on the east side. And there's a pretty little creek, Washington Creek, that runs along the perimeter. Lots and lots of trees, and this was several years ago. And it was just me and my son living in what I like to call Little Box on the Prairie. It's a sweet little box. We also call it House of Love. So I'm doing my dishes. It's in I'd say mid-afternoon, and we had just experienced an extremely dry period of time. I mean, it was so dry, the grass started to turn brown. And it was hot, dry, and windy. And this had gone on for over a week, just relentless. We could hear it at night. We'd wake up in the morning, and it was dry and windy and hot. So I'm standing at the sink, and I'm doing my dishes. And I'm looking at the creek and the big tree line that goes along the creek. And all of a sudden, I see something that looks, well, different, something I haven't seen before. I see what I think is a little plume of smoke, not a big bunch of smoke, and I don't see any flames. I don't see anything on fire. Nothing seems obvious to me. And so I think, gosh, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? Why don't I go outside and get a closer look? So I go outside and I walk across the yard towards the creek, and I'm still a fairly, far amount away from it. And all I see is a little tiny ribbon of smoke, and I cannot identify where it's coming from. So I think to myself, well, maybe I'll go to my neighbors down the road and see if you'll come and take a look with me, because I don't want to seem like I'm alarmist or, call the fire department for a little ribbon of smoke. It's probably just nothing. So I walk across the yards over to my neighbor's house, and I said, hey, I'm seeing something. Would you just walk over to the creek with me, and let's see if it's anything to be concerned about? And he said, sure. I have wonderful neighbors out there. And so we're walking across the yard, and as we get closer, we see a little bit more smoke, but no flame, no fire. And he says to me, I've seen this sort of thing before. He said, I'm going to call the Rural Route 5 Fire Department, and I'm going to have them come out and take a look, because I think this tree is on fire from the inside. Have you ever seen anything like that? I never had. So I said, okay, well, if you think so. So he calls the fire department. And within 3 minutes, here they come down my road. And now the smoke is becoming a plume. And now it's becoming bigger. And all of a sudden, all of these trucks, farmers' trucks and ranchers' trucks from out where I live, start coming down my road. Some of these guys I know and some I don't. And they're all driving to my driveway, and they're doing it quickly. And in the back of their trucks, they put shovels. I'm thinking, well, these guys obviously know more about what's going on than I do. And in they come. They don't say a word. They park their trucks. They run across to the creek with their shovels, and they start digging and making a fire break to keep my little acre from burning and to keep Little Box on the Prairie from burning down. So by now, this tree and this ribbon and this plume of smoke has gashed open. And what do we see? Flames, sparks, deep red, so dark and so hot, it almost looks purple. And sure enough, this tree has caught fire from the inside. Now, the fire department got busy, and they got out their axes. They started to cut down this tree and others around it. What I didn't realize was it had been so hot and dry and so windy that the branches of this tree had done this. Have you ever seen or tried to rub two sticks together on a rock to start a campfire? Well, this tree started its own fire, and what we didn't know were all the little trees around it had too. So the fire department and all the farmers with their trucks who didn't say a word, they were just digging dirt and making a nice line all on the perimeter of my property. And they were there for hours and hours. So once they started cutting the main tree down, we could see the fire. We could feel the fire. So by the time the sun went down, they were still there. And I thought, shoot, surely this thing is out. No. They stayed until sunup so they could truly see and check. And not only did they pour water over it, but dirt. And they cut a whole swath of these little trees down. And one by one, I saw the trucks leave out of my driveway. I didn't even have a chance to thank them. They didn't give me the chance. They just did what they were there to do. They'd been there before. They knew what to do, and they did what needed to be done. They helped me survive something that I didn't even know was there. When I asked one of the firemen as they were getting ready to pull out, I said, well, have you ever seen this happen before? They said, oh, yes, we've seen it many times. In fact, we know when the weather gets like this, that something like this is probably going to happen. And most people aren't familiar with it. They've never lived through it. And they would think, oh, I'm not going to bother to call for help. With a little ribbon of smoke. When the fires are burning, and we can't see them, they're still there. When someone is hurting on the inside, we may not know it or see it. When there is, way back at the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020, what was invisible to most of us, an invisible virus, we didn't know it. It was unseen and unacknowledged, but it was still there. And what can we do to help ourselves survive? Not only survive, but thrive. And I say the first thing to do is see it. Whether it's a physical plume of smoke, whether it's a gesture from a friend who we feel our antenna tells us something's off, they're not doing well. Have you ever asked somebody, hey, how you doing? And they go, fine. And something tells you there's a plume of smoke here. Something's going on. I need to connect with this person. I need to see it. And I would also suggest that we do that for ourselves. I'm not always saying, let's tell our life story to a stranger, or we know we've got 2 minutes to go before we have to leave and say, oh, woe is me, and just recite all the things that we think are going wrong. But if there is a fire going here and something is happening, how do we survive that and how do we thrive? Well, we reach out to each other. When we know what's going on, when we ask the neighbor and say, is this something to pay attention to? And they say, I've been there before. You know the old joke about the person who falls down into the well and they can't get out, and so-and-so comes by and he says, help, I can't get out of this well, I'm stuck. And the guy says, oh gosh, I wish I could help you. I'll go get help. And then another person comes to, he says, help, I'm stuck down here. I can't get out. And they say, oh, what do we do? Maybe I'll go call for help. And then a third person comes and they jump in the well with them. And the guy says, or gal, says, what are you doing? And they say, I've been here before. I know the way out. I've been here before, and I know the way out. So when we know and we can see what's really happening, we can do something. Well, back in the beginning of 2020, we could wear a mask. We could stay home. We could wash our hands. We're still doing all of that. I appreciate everyone in this room for wearing their masks. I appreciate that deeply. We need each other. I know that I do. Myrtle Fillmore says, since two or more are gathered together have the tremendous power that Jesus promised, what power would be released if thousands could be united in speaking one thought? What power could be released? Well, farmers would come down your road with shovels. Fire department would show up. Your neighbor would come running. What power? When we look to nature for how we stay connected, I love this example, especially being born in Kansas City and living a big chunk of my life in Kansas. Did you know, and maybe some of you do, that sunflowers face the sun? There's a big sunflower field outside of Lawrence, Grinter's Farm. And people go there from all over the country and all over the area to get their pictures taken in a great big sunflower field. You'll see them standing next to it, and here's a sunflower, and it's just a lot of fun. People take their babies there, and people get engaged there. The sunflower, that state flower of the great state of Kansas, is a happy flower. And if you go to the field in the morning, you see that they're facing east. All the sunflowers turn to face that sun. And as the sun travels during the day, the sunflowers follow that sun. But what do these sunflowers do when there is no sun? When it's a cloudy day, when it's raining, where do they get their energy? They turn and face each other. They turn and face each other. And that's how they survive and thrive. Yes, it's great when it's a sunny day, and boy, don't we love that, and we can follow that sun. But when the sun isn't apparent, it's just the weather. It doesn't mean it's a bad day. But sometimes we can feel like, this is not such a great day. I don't see the sun. Turn and face each other. That's how we not only survive, but we can also thrive. And we can also clue other people into it. Hey, you having a bad day? Just like a sunflower, let's turn and face each other. Come on, talk with me. I'll sit and talk. I want to hear what you have to say. From the 5 principles of unity, the 4th principle, and I love this because we just had the World Day of Prayer this week. Did anybody tune into that and soak in some of the speakers and the meditations? It was beautiful. I was able to watch some of it. Prayer is connection. Prayer is connection. Prayer is creative thinking that heightens the connection with God and therefore brings forth wisdom, healing, prosperity, and everything good. Through affirmative prayer and meditation, we connect with God and bring out the good in our lives. There is power in affirmative prayer, which we believe increases what? Our connection to God. We follow that sun and we turn to each other. Where does God live? Deep inside of all of us. Where does God live? Here's some things that we can try this week. Well, how can we connect with each other? We can use the mail. I got more mail in 2020 than I had in a really long time because a lot of us couldn't get together and see each other before there were vaccines. So boy, it was really fun to buy some stamps and start sending out some cards and letters. And it was interesting to reconnect in that way. Did anybody here do any of that? The mail service is a big boost for all of us. We could stay connected. Use the mail. Take a flower from your garden and put it in a pot and put it on somebody's porch. It doesn't have to cost money. Call somebody up. And oh boy, the power of Zoom, y'all. Listen, Zoom changed my life starting in March of 2020. Zoom and Facebook Live. That's how I could talk with my parents who were in their 90s and keep them safe until I could see them in person. Zoom and Facebook. And how do we connect with the divine nature within ourselves? Well, I would say prayer is a big one. Meditation. Take a quiet walk through nature. Taking deep breaths for just a minute to remind yourself what you're grateful for. Here's a way of breathing that I use with my singing clients. I'm a vocal coach, and we always start our sessions with relaxing the body. Because, I feel like, especially in the last year or two, there's been, or I have perceived, a constant hum of stress. And sometimes we don't even realize it's there. And one of the ways we know that it's affecting us is we're holding our breath. Our shoulders are up and tight. So here's the kind of breathing that we always start with. We breathe in through the nose. We don't force or push, just a natural breath. And we don't count the breaths. Everybody's body is different. But when we exhale, we hiss. It looks like this. We feel our shoulders fall. I want you to try that with me. Here we go. And really let that hiss out. Let's do it again. Here we go. Do you feel that a little bit of relaxation when we roll our shoulders back and we do this? Just for a moment, we can reconnect with that divine nature within ourselves and begin to recognize it in others. So like the prairie fires that I sang about in the song Burning Fields, what can seem like an emergency, what can seem scary, what can instill fear, we think, how will I survive this? Many times it's because we don't understand it. Many times we need to connect with someone who's been there before, who says, oh, I know what this is. This happens every year to get rid of the weeds and the overgrowth so that the new grass can grow, especially out in the beautiful Flint Hills of Kansas. This used to just happen naturally because of lightning strikes when the grasses were this high and things had to be burned away. But now we do it every year. It's part of growing up if you lived in the part of the country I did where it's just right on the edge of the Flint Hills. And like the song says, sometimes in spring, even though it looks so green, these old fields need room, you see, for new life to grow. And here's my favorite line, and things are not always what they seem to be. So if we start to feel that tightness in our shoulders, we find ourselves not breathing, and we feel ourselves gasping, and we know that there's a fire internal that's burning. We're sending up a little plume of smoke. And who's seeing it? Who's paying attention? Who knows that this is happening for us? Anybody? Does anybody know? Have you ever felt that way or seen someone who said, why didn't you call me before? Couldn't you tell? Well, we're not mind readers. Sometimes we need a little help. And sometimes rather than just a little ribbon of smoke, we need to gash open and say, I'm on fire. I need help surviving this. Danielle Laporte says, when your heart is heavy, when you want to feel alive, acknowledge the dark and take the light into your own hands. And I interpret that as connect with the divine within yourself. And if there is a time when that's hard to do or challenging to do, ask someone to do that in your stead. Ask them to be your sentinel, to watch for the plume, to ask for help. I'd like to read to you a prayer from the Unity International website, a prayer for the wounded heart of humanity. We call upon God's love in this important moment, knowing that divine love is the greatest power in the universe. We pray for the wounded heart of humanity as we grieve, rage, cry, and despair over injustice and inequity. May divine love enfold and comfort everyone who is hurting. May divine wisdom guide each person and institution in taking inspired action to ensure that all are celebrated for their inherent goodness as a part of God's creation. That includes all of us. May we remain resolute in walking the course of human rights and social justice for all. We pray in the spirit of unity, love, and oneness. As silly as it sounds, we're like those sunflowers. We're like that tree. There are fires that are burning inside, but eventually they can thrive, and we can thrive as new life begins to grow. So connect with each other. Connect with the divine within yourself. Gratitude is a lifeline. Love is a verb. We want to get busy. We want to listen to each other. Be on the lookout for the smoke. Look in the mirror for the smoke. Look within yourself for the divine. And as we get ready to go into meditation, I invite you to take 3 of those breaths in through the nose and hissing out. Let's do that together. So get comfortable in your chair, or if you're watching online, wherever you are, remember to take a nice deep breath. And if you're comfortable, close your eyes. And in your mind's eye, look across that beautiful field. And see and feel the sun warming your chest, warming your hands and your face. And walk right into the middle of that field of big, beautiful sunflowers. Imagine. And we breathe. And we walk a little further. And as we look across the field, we see there are others with us. And there's no need to speak, but we nod at each other, we smile at each other, as if to say, I see you. You matter to me. And we breathe. And at some point we stop and we look toward the sky. And we say, thank you for the sunlight. Thank you for this moment. Thank you for this air that I can breathe deeply. And we slowly turn and begin to walk in the direction from which we came. As do others around us, spread all across this beautiful field. And eventually, we step out into the green grass. And we remember to breathe. Oh, you may say I'm a dreamer. I'm not the only one. And I hope someday you will join us. Oh, and the world will be as one. And so it is. Where does God live? Deep inside of me. Where does joy live? Deep inside of me. Does God live deep inside of me? Where does joy live deep inside of me? Where does love live deep inside of me? Where does God live deep inside of me? Now do you feel those good vibrations way down in your heart? We're getting rid of the lamentations. Well, with a brand new start. Where does God live deep inside of me? Where does joy live deep inside of me? Now tell tell me, where does love live? Deep inside of me, that's right. Oh, where does God live? Deep inside of me. Now we've got to remind each other, oh, when it seems there's no way out, well, we don't have to look any further. Just want to sing and shout, where does God live? Deep inside of me, that's right. Where does joy live? Deep inside of me. Where does love live? Deep inside of me. Where does God live? Deep inside of me. Come on, lift up your voices. Get on up and clap your hands. It's high time we remember we gotta make a stand. Where does God live? Deep inside of me, yeah. Where does joy live? Deep inside of me, that's right. Where does love live? Deep inside of me. Where does God live? Deep inside of me. All right. Thank you. Now I know it says on our list that I was just going to do one song, but I have a special song here because guess somebody's having a birthday soon, and who would that be? I think it might be Duke. Uh-oh. I think we should sing happy birthday to him. What do you think? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Duke. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Jim. Thank you all for giving me a nice little prelude into my birthday, which is Tuesday. And I'm just glad we didn't go the second verse. Now you are so old. Anyway, this concludes our service. Kelly, it's always wonderful to have you here. You do such a good job, not only as a musician, but you got a preacher in you, and you do a good job. Yeah. Meditation at 12:10, if anybody cares to attend. We're out early. Does anybody here have anything to say or want to make an announcement of some sort? We haven't done that for a long time. You got 2 minutes in the harmonica? Yeah, next time. So we're going to close this. This is a time when we give gratitude for what we have in our lives. All of us are blessed. We all have a certain degree of prosperity. Life isn't the way we would like it to be, but life is good, and we can celebrate that. And your message helped me do that. Recognize my fires and pay attention to them, as well as be a source to other people who are in need. For offerings, there are boxes out in the narthex. If you'd like to leave an offering, we gratefully accept it. And for those of you who are ambassadors, we extend our appreciation and gratitude for all you do to help support this church. So we'll close with a prayer for protection, and then we'll sing the peace song. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Let there be peace on earth. Let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as Creator. to take each moment, live each moment, peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with Where does God live? Deep inside of me. Where does joy live? Deep inside of me. Where does love live? Deep inside of me. Where does God live? Deep inside